it really kind of runs the gamut. So people either want nothing, or they want things that maybe have no monetary value, but they are personal to them.
Yes. You're going to figure it out. We'll sell it off, do whatever we want. But we don't want it. We don't want it.
Yes.
Your next favorite podcast pick starts now. Here's the Professor and Heather Ann.
Welcome to
The Professor and Heather Ann.
Although we don't have all the answers, we hope to encourage and excite you. We're here sharing our lives to help you to make the most of the second half of your life.
So today's topic is a very important one, something that maybe a lot of families do not talk about. It's something that we've done ourselves. So if you're a business owner, you have a family, today's episode is going to have a lot of insightful information regarding how to protect your family, your businesses. So today's guest,
Jamie Miller, an attorney, will talk to us about estate planning. So about some of the, why it's important to do this, the dangers of just having faith that your heirs will figure it all out and be reasonable together, and some of the facts and the myths or misconceptions about it.
There's a lot of misconceptions. So we're on our second marriage, each of us. We have children from our previous marriages. And I am a mortgage lender and have been for about 30 years. And I have, in my business, I've seen a lot of families fight over estates. Personally, in my own family's life, it's actually happened when I was about in the third grade when my grandmother passed away. She didn't have anything in place, and my mother came from a large family, and a few family members went in and just took whatever they wanted. Not that she had a lot of money, but she did have a property, but it was the personal stuff, things that have been in the family for generations, that my mother and also my younger aunt that I was very close to only had a few pictures from their own childhood. And so I've seen that. And then the recent thing that happened last year was my older sister's husband passed away suddenly. And within a day...
Because he had done nothing.
He had done nothing. There was nothing in order. Nothing was in my sister's name. So each state it has laws regarding that. And within a day of him passing away, they were already there.
His children from
previous marriage. And they were loading stuff up, and my sister's still in shock, and we're trying to figure out what's going on. We're trying to be respectful for her. And it just was crazy. They probably literally drove off with about $20,000 to $30,000, including his truck, $20,000 to $30,000 worth of stuff. And they even tried to ask for things like, we just want a cell phone. Will you give us our cell phone? Can we go into his office? And it's like, no, you're not going into his office where his personal papers are and all of his information. That's what, we finally had to tell our sister, this is ridiculous. We are stepping up. And after several days, I actually wound up calling the sheriff because it was just ridiculous. And a lot of that is they knew she wasn't on the property. On the deed. They knew a lot of this stuff.
But fortunately, this is Texas.
This is Texas, and Texas has an amazing law. And it was
homestead.
It's homesteading, but so my sister has the right to stay there until we figure out. They can't force her into probate to sell anything. They actually had, and we found out afterwards, they had no right to take anything off the property that legally was my sister's. And they set all of that up, which is a whole nother topic for me. They set all of that up a lot for women that are in domestic violence so that they can't be kicked off their own property. So it was enlightening, even though I knew a lot of this stuff, even though we had already set up all of our information and set up our trust and our wills. It still was amazing to just watch them ascend. And a lot of it is when this happens, people don't realize that when this happens, you're in shock. Mm-hmm. So, and it wasn't until after a couple of weeks that my sister could actually breathe that she was like, I wish I would have done something different. I wish I would have told them no. I wish I wouldn't have.
Well, and
then there's a whole other thing that we learned about through this whole incident was a lot of families will set things up to avoid court and everything. I'm going to go ahead and share this because
go ahead.
They had multiple generations.
It's funny in a kind of a...
It is funny in a kind of way. It was shocking at the time, but multiple generations have the same name.
And not even like junior or
There's
third,
no
just
junior,
the
senior,
same name.
third, or anything. Because my thing was, okay, if they took this property, they can't change title. Well, they could change title in another state. So that's a whole nother topic and everything. But we're sharing this because it happens. And families are grieving, and kids do tend to fight, and family members do tend to fight, and money changes.
Money changes everything, and even when it's a simple case in which the heirs are all the biological children of the deceased, even then it can be ugly. But here, when it's children from previous marriages,
yes.
And yeah.
And it happens, and people just, emotions run high, and so that was one of the decisions we decided to do, is to get our wills done, get a trust set up for our children. We had, Jamie was amazing helping us set that up, and I learned a lot of things. I didn't know that, and we'll have her talk more about this, what was the most shocking thing for us was, we signed a prenup before we got married.
Yes, which we would not have.
Which you wouldn't have thought of doing. And again, it's just an added layer of protection, and Jamie will get more into that. But then the other thing that I think we kind of surprised Jamie with is, I fortunately am very fortunate in my business to work with celebrities and pro athletes and different things like that. And a lot of times they need to hide their identities and stuff just for protection. I've seen stalkers and, things like that. And they always use their family name. And that always drives me crazy because it's like, well, people can still search you out.
People can look up a trust.
They can look up a trust. They can see. They can still find information. So you and I came up, we had a very hard time because different names, we do not have the same last name. And
so
we came up, it took us a while to figure out, it took us a couple of months probably,
yes.
to figure out what the
name of
our
trust
is.
And something completely out of left field.
Completely out of left field, so much so that when we're dealing with the property in Virginia, one guy was like, I'm sorry, what was the name of that?
Have to spell out each word.
But it means something to us.
Yes, it's
something
not
very,
random.
No, it's something that's very dear to us. But coming up with that name pretty much took us a little bit of time. And so we just threw some whimsical.
It's whimsical.
It's very whimsical.
Yes.
Well, so what we want to do is welcome Jamie Miller. She's a Tulsa-based attorney, owner of J. Miller Law Firm. Jamie brings clarity, compassion, and a touch of humor to a topic many people avoid, estate planning. Jamie, let's start with clarifying the myth about estate planning, and if you could kind of explain that to us. And you do. You bring some humor and
Thank
stuff.
you. I try.
You did raise an eyebrow when we came up with the name of our trust.
Well, not much surprises me at this point, but sometimes things do surprise me, and so I appreciate that.
So, and we really appreciate you helping us and
absolutely.
directing us. You never told us we had to, you told us what the laws were and just directed us on how to set things up for our children. And
yeah, absolutely. That's my role. My role isn't to make the decisions for you. It's to talk about the pros and cons, the options, and help draft it in a way that's clear for you and for your loved ones beyond you. That's the most important thing, is that it's carried out how you intended as well.
so let's start with the prenup.
Yes.
Why was that? That was probably the most wait a minute, we have to do a prenup.
And when I advised a prenup, it wasn't planning for divorce, it was planning for your estate planning. And so in Oklahoma, at least, once you are married, spouses have certain rights. And it's really problematic to try and change those rights later. So someone passes, and then if there's no prenup in place, the surviving spouse can claim certain things that maybe you verbally agreed wouldn't happen, but then happens later. And so that was really for the prenup. So you could go into your estate planning and do exactly what you wanted to do because you're already set up with your written agreement. So that's
Nice.
why. Yeah.
So what do you think, what's your professional opinion of why people are so afraid of going to an attorney and setting this up?
There's a few things. It's just death is a topic people don't want to talk about, and there's this sort of weird perception that, well, if we put our estate plan in place, something might happen, and that obviously has no basis in reality, just talking about death. But it's an uncomfortable subject, and there are decisions. The clients have the hardest part. You have to decide, where assets are going and who's going to make decisions for you. I can't tell you that. I can advise you. But there are a lot of interpersonal family dynamics at play in those decisions, a lot of history.
Yes.
If you have more than one child, as many people do, they sometimes feel it's a measure of their feelings toward their children. If they decide, this child would be better a decision maker than that child, then it gets into a whole complicated family dynamics about that. And cost, of course, people are worried about the cost, and it's just something they put off.
Well, let's dive into the cost. We were really surprised. It was not as expensive as you would think it is.
Yeah.
And you did a lot. So we did the prenup, then we did the trust, then we did all the medical directives. We needed to do all of that very quickly because we got married and then we were leaving the country.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you were like, in between married,
We have a two-stage process. Yes,
we need,
absolutely.
before you leave the country, we need to finalize this.
Sure.
So it's not just going in and setting up this. There is a lot of documents
There's
and a lot of information.
And
that has
follow up
to be-
afterward, especially when we're talking about a trust. Yes. But no, I am aware of cost, and I want people to have good plans in place and not turn to internet sources for plans that are really deficient. So it's trying to meet that balance, what's going to be an affordable option for a good plan, and I need to make a living as well.
So can you talk more about the, because, people are very tempted now with the availability, not just for estate planning, for anything that would normally involve the help of a lawyer, whether these are online templates, we got artificial intelligence. So why should people not do that?
Sure. So there is definitely a role for AI in particular. It can be great. For example, if someone wants to use AI to come to a first meeting with me to talk about questions and scenarios, come informed. Let's have a dialogue. Absolutely. It is not consumer-facing AI is not a good drafting tool. Remember, AI's facts come from the internet, and there's a lot of misinformation on the internet. There's some things that are correct. There's some things that are correct in certain circumstances that may not include your nuances, and then there's garbage. So if you want a plan that's 2/3 garbage, sure. but and honestly, if someone comes to me with a plan that they've created, whether it's from another lawyer or from online, I will be honest with them. And if it's something we can tweak and reasonably amend, I will do that. If it's something that needs to go in the shredder, I will tell them that too. So.
And you ask a lot of questions. There was a lot of, we had to get in depth. And part of it is, I have 2 boys, he has a daughter. So, right there, it's not even, and it's different dynamics and, specific, our children would like to have specific things.
Sure.
But also, one of the things that you hear about nowadays, especially with the younger generation, and even my boys have told me, we don't want your stuff.
Yeah.
You're going to figure it out. We'll sell it off, do whatever we want. But we don't want it. We don't want it.
Yes. It really kind of runs the gamut. So people either want nothing, or they want things that maybe have no monetary value, but they are personal to them.
Yes.
And that they will fight over this $5 toy.
No, believe it or not, it is. And I brought up my mother's family. There was things from her childhood that she never got. There was my youngest aunt who just recently passed away last year or 2 years ago. She, my grandfather, her father passed away, like she was 9 months old.
Oh, wow.
So she didn't even have, I have her stuff now, but she had like 3 pictures of her father. So, that there's a lot of hurt feelings.
Yes.
This happened when I was 8 years old, 9 years old. And for years there were still hurt feelings and everything like that.
Absolutely.
So I've seen it in my family.
Yeah.
And I've seen it with clients that, we're going to go ahead and, everything says we need to sell all dad's property and all that. Yeah. And then the siblings do not agree.
Right.
Like, well, I don't like that price.
Sure.
Or I'm not going to sign. I want a little bit more money. So a trust helps just because a lot of people think, and even with the knowledge that I have, a lot of people think that a will just handles all that.
Sure. There's a lot of misconceptions about wills. I hear a lot that people think wills don't go through probate. Well, no, they absolutely do. That's the purpose of a will. And most of the time when people want to talk about a trust, they want to avoid probate. And probate isn't bad, but it is, time consuming, more expensive than estate planning. But they want to avoid that for their loved ones. So they're not waiting for the one probate judge in the county to tell their kids they can sell their house. And they want some flexibility or control. I see more and more over the last few years, people with adult children they have concerns about, and maybe their mental health struggles, unstable marriages, addiction struggles. And so in some cases, those adult children are not the decision makers for you. And maybe we need to put some parameters about if and when they get assets. And sometimes those are hard things to see in writing, putting a drug test and things like that, or outright disinheriting. Those are difficult decisions.
Well, and a trust kind of goes in deeper, and all of your medical objectives go in deeper as well. You're not, if you don't have the trust in place, you don't have that one child that maybe has addiction or has a gambling problem, making those decisions on, again, it's not a great topic, but, we're going to go ahead and take mom off of life support because... she's got this estate that I'm waiting for.
Right.
And I know that I'm saying that flippant, but that is facts. That happens in the real world.
It does. And honestly, those health decisions are often the hardest for people. So I'm an only child, and which you think, that'd be easy for me, and it likely will be, but we still put my parents' plan in writing because it's their plan, it's not mine. And also those advanced directives, those end-of-life healthcare decisions, that was the only thing they fought me on. They you just decide later. It's like, no, that's not fair to me. I want to know what you want.
Because even we found out when we were doing our directives and stuff, we found out that we even have a slight difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're kind of like, really? That's what you want to have done?
Right.
And he's like, yes, this is what I want. And I'm like, no big deal to me.
Right.
So
important to know that and have that in writing.
It is.
Yes.
It's very important because, again, especially, the main topic that we talk about is second marriages. So if you have kids from previous marriages, then they may not see the way I see it, or they may not see it the way that he sees it. So then having that definitely makes...
Right. So as stepchildren you get along with great now, then suddenly if there's no plan in place and you're making a decision that you've said, well, that's what he wanted, that's what she wanted, and it's really helpful to have that in writing. Then it sort of eliminates or greatly reduces the chance of those hard feelings, and relationships that were good are not good because they didn't understand what was happening. So,
And again, there's a lot of families out there that really haven't experienced this, and that is wonderful. But for those of us who have, there is so much emotion and so many things, even when things are written out. There's so many things that you have to just getting to the funeral home, picking up ashes or having a burial. These are very emotional things. I know and it's even worse when you don't have anything in writing.
Yes.
So there was even, my sister's husband's, when we were planning all of his stuff and getting him cremated and all that stuff, there was even some misunderstanding at the table. And kind of, unfortunately, I had to kind of step in and go, we're not doing that.
Right.
And they're looking at my sister going, but it's okay, we're going to do that. And she's like, well, I don't. I'm like, no, we're not. And it was just simple things. I know, again, this is very touchy subject for a lot of people. It was just simple things of theirs was second marriage. So kids from previous marriages. And as silly as it sounds, and this is just my mindset, they wanted to put my great niece's names in a paper that in the obituary.
Sure.
That's a nationwide thing. Well, I think of these things, not everybody else, and it's like you need to ask their parents' permission to be able to do that. You can't just automatically do that. And full disclosure, my nephews did not care for him. So that was even more of a thing. And I made that comment because I don't have any emotions into this.
Right,
But I'm just like, they didn't even like him. Why would their kids name? And so they were offended.
Oh, no. Yes.
Why did you have to say that? It's just a fact. I don't, because I'm a matter-of-fact person.
Right.
So, and again, I'm not making light of it, but these are true things that happen.
They are. And when we're having the estate planning conversations, I also have the conversation about those kinds of wishes and even funeral pre-planning. And if someone can actually plan ahead for those things and in some cases pay for in advance, because you're right, it can be, what someone, if there's an open casket, what someone is wearing, the choice of outfit can be a disagreement. If it can be, that versus cremation, and cremation, it can be who's keeping the ashes, or are we spreading the ashes? There's a minefield of decisions that can cause issues with family.
Yes, and there's just so much, and the last thing you want to do is have to make all these decisions, because you need the opportunity to grieve.
You do.
And so,
and my sister was in shock.
Yes.
Especially
if it's an unexpected death,
Yes.
then it adds a whole nother layer too of shock versus someone who is 95 or something like that. Yeah.
Something that you're kind of
expecting at some point, right? Or sudden death, or an accident,
yes.
or a heart attack, something like that. Sure.
So what other things do you recommend? And
so one thing I really would love to see people stop doing is stop putting people who you are not married to on your bank account. People do that because they think, oh, I just want them to be easy, and they can pay my bills if I can't, and it can go to them, and they can just divvy it out. Well, that's just not the best way to do it. So I totally understand you want someone to be able to access your account and pay your bills if you can't, things like that. But we do that with a power of attorney. And then when you have someone on your account as joint, it's like you're married. So that's their money. So they may honor your wishes, they may not. Oh. Then we also get into gift issues, depending on the amount of the money, and tax issues. And also I have seen a fair number of times where someone's joint account and then they have a falling out. Well, guess what? You can't get them off your account without their permission, because
Correct.
That's their account.
Or you have to shut down that account.
Right, and sometimes they don't even let you do that easily.
Correct.
And depending on the amount of money, that may be a real problem.
And sometimes, which I just read an article this week, sometimes not even putting your kids' There's a different way you can do it. It's what is it? Pay on death.
Payable on death would be how they would access it later. Because the other thing about having someone on your account together is you have now opened each other up to each other's debts, creditors, if there's any lawsuits, things like that. So divorces, that's just not something you want to do. They can access the money, like you said, through payable on death beneficiaries that make sure you keep those updated with those banks. And then power of attorney if someone needed to access your account on the short-term basis if you're incapacitated.
I just read an article where a son was just arrested for embezzling.
Sure.
And the bank actually turned him in and called the police
Absolutely.
because they saw a lot of unusual activity
Sure.
on the mother's account. And then she was moving to a facility and her check bounced.
Yeah.
So, but there's nothing she can legally do.
So there are legal action they can be taken because if he was the fiduciary and he was not acting in that capacity, then sure. But the money's gone. The money's gone. I mean,
right?
yeah.
Yes, he can go to jail
Yes.
because he embezzled money
Right.
from his mother.
Yes,
and so
absolutely.
forth. And that's a whole nother topic.
Sure.
But that money's gone. She's not going to get that money back.
So really important where people are choosing people that they trust implicitly, and you would think you could trust your son, but perhaps there were other issues that maybe could have been discovered with an attorney about why that son was maybe not the best choice. I don't know.
But doing a power of attorney,
Yeah.
putting them on the pay on death.
Right.
That is another way to protect yourself. Because really, honestly, what we're talking about here with the will and the trust and everything is protecting yourself in times that, when you're gone, so your family's not fighting each other.
Yeah.
But also making sure all those directives are in place so you're protecting yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that people aren't taking advantage of you in a time where you can't make decisions on your own.
Yeah, it's really the whole reason to do it is these are your decisions to make, so you should make them, and they should, be in writing. And then I can't stop people from doing crazy things, but then at least if they've done something crazy, there's a legal basis for a remedy, hopefully. But something that's increasingly a concern as people get older, someone coming in and trying to get them to change their will or their power of attorney, and they bring in a mobile notary to the home and they do it kind of secretly. So you really, if you have a loved one in your life that's getting older, or you're noticing any sort of dementia, to really stay on top of that and try and kind of shield them from things like that.
So I don't know. This might be more, psychology than law.
Sure.
But do you have advice for how a family can just start this conversation?
Sure. It's hard to start out of the blue, and so what I find, it usually starts when something has happened. So there's been a death in the family, someone's had a friend who's passed away, or a coworker, or they've heard a nightmare story about probate, or they've read an article, and that usually sparks a conversation like, gee, I don't want this to happen in my family, or how can we prevent that? Or, man, this has been on my to-do list every January and I haven't done it. Maybe it's time. Or someone is sometimes they're noticing forgetfulness, or there's a fall or something like that, and then that will also spark the conversation about what's next.
Mm-hmm.
And how often should you revisit a plan?
Sure. I used to say every year, and that's unrealistic. Nobody does it. So I've started saying every 2 to 3 years, or if there's a change in your family circumstances. So birth, death, marriage, divorce, moves, change in property, change in a family dynamic, like someone, adult child you were not concerned about, now you're concerned about. Things like that should trigger you to be like, let's pull this out, let's revisit our decisions.
So, okay, but you mentioned move. So a trust will be under the laws of a particular state. And so does that mean if you move to another state, you got to...
No, so what I advise people when they move to a different state is at least get a consult with an estate planning attorney in that state for any state-specific changes that need to be amended. In particular, powers of attorney, advance directives, you want to be sure that those are honored if you're incapacitated or in an end-of-life situation, and you may want to switch those to the new state. So, but it shouldn't be a wholesale start over. If it was valid in the state, it was done, and it's valid in the new state. But there might be some state-specific nuances that you want to update.
Okay.
So explain, which our conversation now has triggered. We need to come and update our trust and make sure that we have everything.
Sure.
Because we are moving, so we definitely need to do that.
Sure.
So we've talked, just briefly here and there about probate. So from a lender standpoint, not even personal, but from a lender standpoint, that could definitely hold things up.
It can.
Because probate is a minimum of 90 days here in Oklahoma, correct?
I would say it's more like 6 months or longer. If there's real property involved and that's being sold, obviously that will impact it. And then the timing, because part of probate is you have to file taxes.
Correct.
And so depending on when everything is sold and distributed may impact the tax year it has to be filed in. And if you want to hear a real nightmare story about probate,
yes.
I'm about to close one from 2006.
Oh, wow.
Way before I was an attorney. There were a lot of fighting involved, a lot of back and forth, and then a lot of people dying, and then a lot of balls dropping. So that's an outlier. But 6 months, year to 2 years would not be unheard of at all. So
Okay.
before it's all said and done.
Before it's all said
right.
and done.
Yeah, not to say you can't do some things.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it's just even 90 days giving them permission to sell.
Right, yeah,
That
absolutely.
doesn't mean the money goes.
Nope, money goes into a state account until it's done.
Until it's all settled.
Yes. And then the longer it goes, the more chance of people who are inheriting, maybe then they die. So then
Correct.
now we
So
have more
then-
complications. Yeah.
Because I've had many properties that my buyers are excited about closing on, and then we get that call. We have a probate
Yes.
issue. We have to go to the courts
Yes.
and just get the authorization to be able to sell the
Right.
property.
Yeah.
That, again, is a minimum of 90 days.
Right.
Now you've got
Yeah.
buyers that
Right.
are...
You might lose it with your buyer.
You're like,
Yeah.
we were to give a notice. We need to get out of our current
Yeah.
place. We have no place
Right.
to go. So,
And that's if everyone agrees and it's an easy sale.
Correct.
If it's not an easy sale, then we're talking about a judge approval and an auction process, and that's more time, more money. So, yeah, knowing up front who has title to the property and how that's going to be handled definitely will impact the probate. So.
Tammy, do you have anything that you'd like to tell our viewers that we haven't covered yet?
kind of walk us through the process. So,
Of the estate planning process?
Yes.
Sure. So I'm not, depending on the individual coming to me and their kind of wishes, I could have intake forms I can send out in advance, or some people prefer to come in and just have an initial conversation and then we talk more about details. So I'm not married to one particular method every time. I want it to be what works for them. But ultimately, I need decisions made, and we talk about pros and cons and options. Basically, who's going to get your stuff and who's going to see that it's carried out. And I'm very big on backups. So if this plan doesn't work because this person is deceased or incapacitated, what's next? And then what's next after that?
and we did. We went a little bit
Yes.
deeper than we thought we were, because we answered one question. They're like, okay, but who's next? And we're
Right.
like, what? And then it was like, who's next?
Right.
And it's like, how many people do we have to have?
It's up
and
to
what
you.
happens?
Yeah.
And-
But the more people you have backups, the less chance of that you'll have to come back and amend it with me later unless those decisions change. So, yeah. And people can leave money to charities too. People think, I have to leave money to my kids and it has to be equal. It can be whatever you want it to be. We just have to have it clear in writing. So,
And we did. We left some
Yes.
charity. We have some, some of that written
Sure,
in there as
absolutely.
well.
Yeah.
And we really appreciated that you were very in depth with us and really took us to those next layers and those next layers that you just don't think of.
right. Yes.
And we handled all of that. Again, in between getting married and leaving for our honeymoon.
Right.
We had spoken with you before,
Sure,
so we were already working on the paperwork. We actually had to wait till we got married to finish the paperwork.
Right. Yeah.
But we were, it was very insightful, and we really appreciated that you took us to the next step
Absolutely.
and explained everything to us.
Yeah.
And didn't completely laugh at it.
I did not.
With the name of
No.
our trust. So
What I would say is most people tell me that at the end of when we're concluding the process that it wasn't as bad as they thought it was going to be, which doesn't sound like a compliment, but for an attorney it is. I will take it. And that they feel better afterward. It's something that's been in the back of their head. It's been on their to-do list for a long time. They get it done, and there's like a visible weight lifted off their shoulders, which is nice to see.
and that's what really for us is that I might have approached it first about getting this set up just because I've seen.
Right.
And I also had my aunt who lived in Texas and they were not married. And then they went to go set things up and it's like, that's not how it works here in
Right.
Texas. And so you have to be aware of what the probate and trust laws are in your state.
Yes, and common law is probably a whole nother episode.
It is. And so they did wind up getting married and they did, set up their trust. But I hear so many times, especially in second marriages, and not that I would think this would happen to me, but we had to ask each other with 100% certainty, if you passed away, would your children come and kick me out of my own house?
That was a hard conversation to have.
Yeah.
And so we had to be honest with
Yeah.
each other, and it's like, no, we can't be 100%
Sure.
certain. So
Absolutely.
that's why.
Yeah.
And that was the whole setup even for my aunt and having conversation was, at the time, and because of what Texas law was, that there was, she knew that, he's going to come in and
Right.
the children are going to come in and say, hey, you got to get out.
Right.
We're selling everything
You have to know
off
what the
and-
law is and how to protect yourself. But whether it's a first marriage or a second marriage, if you can't have those difficult conversations, then I would say someone probably shouldn't be getting married.
I like that. Or multiple marriages.
Right.
People have that as well.
And suppose a person is unmarried, has no partner, no children. Do they need to be concerned about this at all?
They do, and because really a big concern would be if you can't take care of yourself or you need help taking care of yourself, what is the plan? And that plan might be living with other family members. Maybe you have friends in a similar situation and you want to plan for kind of living in a big house together or near each other. And it might be a community here. We have some fabulous communities that go from independent living all the way to memory care if needed. And so those all have a cost. And so planning for that in advance for what happens to you, really whether you have children or not, because not everyone can rely on their children to take care of them. People live overseas and in different states. So that, and then if there are assets left over, then do you have family member? Do you have friends you want that to go to? Or do you want it to go to animal rescue or school or something that's important to you? So absolutely, yeah.
And you can set this trust up to anyone. I mean,
absolutely,
it does not have to be children. It doesn't have to be
absolutely
family.
does not have to be.
You can give everything to charity if that's what you chose to do.
As long as I feel that you are competent and no one's coercing you, then you can do whatever you want.
And it happens.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I'm sure you see it in your business. I've seen it several times in my business where I've literally had to step back and go, I don't believe this is in your best interest. I don't believe you're doing this just because you want to.
Yes.
There's been a couple of times I'm like, you have to bring somebody else with you to have conversation. I don't want your child to be there.
Right.
Because I need to be able to ask you questions.
Independently,
Yes.
yes. And if you're really concerned, then there are, services that to reach out to with those concerns. Yeah.
So it's a lot. It's not a topic. Death and taxes.
Right, yes.
Something that nobody wants to talk about.
Nobody wants to talk about.
But they are there.
They are there.
And it's
Yes, they're
better
there
to be
regardless.
prepared
Yeah.
and make sure that family members just don't drive up and then drive off with all over the property.
And I'm also a big proponent of communicating your decisions with your adult children or family members, because they're going to find out, and it's either from you or from me. And if you can explain your decisions or your rationale, it usually will come across better than after someone's gone. They're already upset, they're grieving, and it's a better conversation if there can be a dialogue about why we're doing this. If it's not equal or whatever the case may be, they may not agree with you. They may be upset about it, but at least they understand and they've heard it from you.
And another thing is you want to have all this in place. I'm very thankful that my middle sister and I were there for my sister. We were there literally on the same day that he passed away, and was able to get to her right away. Yeah. Because one of the things that his family came in and did was, so we're taking you back to California. They all live in California, and we're like, what's going on? Right. And they're like, oh well, you know, he told us that we needed to take care of you, so we're going to take you back to California. And we're like, no, we're not. We're here. We're taking care of our sister. Yeah. And it was for several days until my sister was in a fog and just trying to figure things out. And she finally was like, "Why are you trying? Are you trying to get me out of my house?"
Yes.
Which is what exactly they were trying to do.
Just get in the van. We're going to go.
Yes. And then we're like, "Where are you taking our sister?"
Right.
We'll take care of our sister. Yes. But it was very odd.
It
was
odd.
Just kind of we're just sitting around going. They're trying to kidnap you.
Right. If you would have gotten there so quick, I mean, it's...
If we would have what would have happened if we had not gotten there so quickly? Because I literally had the call from my sister and was down there, first one to arrive, and just like, what in the world is going on? And even having to, we had gone several days, and I'm just sharing this because these are things that happen. Sure. We had gone several days. We were hardly sleeping. Yeah. And so by the third or fourth day, and them just constantly
wearing it down,
wearing, well, can we have this? Can we have that? And I'm like, just get out of the house. Just get out. Yeah. And then they would try to, like, one day they were trying to walk down the hallway. It's like, what are you doing? You don't need to go into this part of the house. What's going on? That I was my sisters had actually left the house and they knew this, but I had stayed back purposely. We changed the locks right away. Yeah. I mean, like that day. Yeah. But it was the emotions and everything that even though I'm somebody's just a matter of fact person and everything, I'm calling my boys going, I just can't take this. I don't know what's going on. And one of my boys finally telling me, call the sheriff's mom, get him off the property. So these are, it's horrible. Yes. But this is what happens. This is, I was young, but I still remember my mom's heartbreak of just not being, even for us, there was just a few things, like there was this favorite album about the frog and the lily pad and all of that stuff that we used to always listen to at my grandmother's house. Yeah. And since she was our safe place, just not being able to have that, just something like that.
Yeah. No, death tends to either bring out the best in people or the worst in people. So we can hope for the best, but we prepare for the worst.
Yes. And more often than not, it brings out the worst.
It does, unfortunately.
So what happens, and I know this varies by state, but so what happens in Oklahoma if someone passes away with no will, no trust, nothing, then?
If they pass away and there are assets that are only in that deceased person's name, then it would go to, it's called an intestate or without a will probate. And then the state has a plan for those assets. And the plan, it depends on the family members that are living at that time. So if there's a spouse, if there's children of the deceased and someone else, if there are parents living or their siblings living, so it depends what that situation is, but it's basically a formula that the state has, and that may or may not be the plan that you would intend. So if you wanted a stepchild to inherit or something, Oklahoma does not provide for that.
So you have to put that.
That's why you need a plan. So if you don't have a plan, Oklahoma doesn't. You can't just say, he told me that or she told me that. It doesn't work that way. If it's not an actual estate plan, then the state will
use its formula.
Yeah. So
that's good to know. And then, what is the average? And again, each case is different. But what is the average time and average cost? Because we were actually surprised that it was not as expensive as we expected.
Yeah. So average time, I usually tell people, give me a couple of weeks for drafts. Now it depends what all drafts we're doing and, particular schedule if I'm out of town the next week or something, but give me a couple of weeks for drafts. And then it depends how long they take to review and how they want to handle that review. I have some people who want to just do a phone call or a video to go over questions. I have some people who want to come back in and go through it paragraph by paragraph. And that's absolutely fine. So it in part depends on the client and their comfort level of what they want to do. From a month to several months, if people are slower making decisions or I have to prompt them a few times to review it, things like that.
And ours took a few months, partly because we were planning a wedding at the same time.
Sure.
Ours took several months, and then we took some time to come up with a name, because you have to have a name.
You do need a name, yes.
You do need a name.
Yeah.
And it could be anything that you want.
It could be anything that you want.
A lot of times people use their family names,
Yeah.
but it could be anything that you want.
Right. Yeah.
And...
price. Sure. So I do, when I can do things on flat fees, I'm happy to do that. Clients like that for transparency. When we're talking about a trust, there are a lot more nuances and dynamics, so that's typically more of a retainer with our early rate based on time. So I say anywhere from $500 to $3,000-ish. If someone has multiple businesses or if there are estate tax issues or a very complicated plan, it could be more, but that's just kind of a range. So.
But it's definitely worth it.
Yeah. So I guess one kind of, I think, misconception about trusts is that they're only for rich people.
Right.
But
it's a revocable living trust. It's primarily a probate avoidance tool because probate is more expensive than that, and then your heirs are waiting on the one probate judge. And also with a trust, you can be more flexible and also have more control. So obviously minors can't get money, and so what's the plan for that for like their guardians if something happened, and also even 18-year-olds generally not great with money. So what does that look like? So do they get money for certain things? Do they get money at 25, 21, 25? What do you want that to look like? How conservative or liberal do you want to be with those distributions? And then privacy. So probate, whether there's a will or not a will, all those filings are on OSCN. Whereas a trust, unless there's a fight about the trust is private.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And that's a good thing to know that the trust is private.
Absolutely, yeah.
any last thoughts?
Just the best time to start the plan is any time. So there is no perfect time. You don't have to waiting for a diagnosis or waiting for an emergency. Things tend to get left out. People aren't thinking clearly. So the best time to plan is before you need to plan.
I like that. I like that. Jimmy, thank you. Thank you for coming and
Thank you for having me.
This episode is full of a lot of great information. Our listeners, they can reach out to you
Absolutely.
to see about setting up a trust and will for them.
Sure.
We really appreciate you being here.
Yes.
How can they contact you or reach out to you?
Sure. My website's jmillerlawfirmpllc.com. I have a scheduling button that has my calendar in real time. Also has my phone number and email on there as well.
Nice. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please subscribe and support our podcast. We have many exciting discussions coming up, more guests. Can't wait to have you along for new episodes. So join us here each week, my friend. You're sure to get a smile. From lessons learned to mishaps, the adventures go on for miles. Here on The Professor and Heather Ann.
Thank you for listening to The Professor and Heather Ann.